After months of battle, much of Kobani is in ruins. But even in retreat, the Islamic State was defiant. This fighter promising the group would be back. Despite losing more than 1,000 fighters in and around Kobani to airstrikes alone, it's been no empty threat. U.S. and coalition warplanes still finding and hitting Islamic State positions, continually pushing them back. To some, it's a sign the group's weaknesses are starting to surface. David Gardenstein-Ross with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
The likeliest explanation as to why they keep pouring in resources, even though it's so costly to try to take Kobani, is that the leader of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, is personally invested in taking that territory, and thus, even though it doesn't make strategic sense, they keep on trying.
Senior military officials say the Islamic State is showing signs of, quote, being less battlefield effective, especially as they lose experienced fighters. Still, some military analysts warn underestimating the militants would be a mistake. Christopher Harmer of the Institute for the Study of War.
They're operating from a completely different strategic paradigm than we are. They're thinking in terms of control of the human terrain more than control of the physical terrain.
Harmer says Kobani is a key in what seems to be an effort by the Islamic State to create a safe haven of sorts, extending northeast from the Euphrates River to Turkey and Iraq, eventually to be controlled by a relatively small number of fighters.
For the ISIS leadership, it's absolutely important, perhaps even imperative, that they establish this contiguous safe haven, because once they do that, they don't sense that they'll have any military threat from the Turkish side of the border.
To Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, it may well be worth the high cost in casualties.
This is a very thoughtful individual who has developed a very clear organizational structure and is not someone who is impulsive, but rather has a clear strategy in which he's been quite successful.
Dr. Gerald Post founded the branch of the CIA that does behavioral analysis. He sees in Baghdadi some of the same traits of former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein.
He's a quintessential narcissist, but is so imbued with his own stature, he cares little for the amount of violence he carries out.
Post says Baghdadi's weakness may be a tendency to overestimate his own popularity, but warns, so far, most of his decisions in advancing the Islamic State have paid off. Jeff Seldin, VOA News, Washington.